What's up, guys? Brett Okamoto for ESPN alongside Marc Raimondi. We are here to talk about the year to come, 2022. We saw a lot of great fights in 2021, and now we're going to talk about some fights we hope to see in 2022. I write an article on this every year. I've been doing that for probably just about a decade. I've been doing that for ESPN for a long time. So my list is already out there. You can check it out on ESPN.com. I don't know Marc's list. We haven't revealed them to each other leading up to this. So I'm pretty interested to get Marc's take. So Marc, why don't you take it away? We're going to do our top three, both of us. So start off with your number three. What is your number three fight that you hope to see next year?
Well, hello, Brett. It's good to see you. I'm in Paris. Yes, I know. And that is not the Eiffel Tower behind me. That is just a random office building. So there's that. But if you squint a little bit, you could almost picture that as the Eiffel Tower. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll add like a graphic in post-production. Anyway, my number three fight is it's a little bit of a cop-out, I have to admit. It's not exactly one fight, but it's Khamzat Chimaev versus the top fighters in the welterweight division. I want to see him fight everybody. I don't want to see him just fight Colby Covington. I don't want to see him just fight Bilal Muhammad. I don't want to see him just fight Kamaru Usman. I want to see Khamzat Chimaev in 2022 just fight the entire division. Maybe, over the span of 6 weeks or so. I don't care. But I just want to see that guy fight more. I'm so interested in where his career goes, his trajectory. How good is he really? I think we find that out in 2022 against a top-ranked opponent. I'm not sure who it will be yet, which is why I'm kind of leaving this open. And again, I don't really even mind. I just want to see him against somebody of significance. Leon Edwards, Vicente Luque, anyone who's near the top of that. Maybe even, Wonder Boy Thompson, who's coming off a couple of losses now. Gilbert Burns. I mean, I'm naming the entire welterweight division because that's who I want to see Chimaev fight. I want to see that guy in a big fight at the top welterweight, if not several of those fights in 2022.
All right. I mean, it was your first answer. It was a little bit of a cop-out, but I'll allow it because, you got a good chance of seeing that. I'd say you got a 100% chance of seeing Khamzat Chimaev fight a top welterweight. So that is Marc's number three. Mine feels like a cop-out as well, only because I feel like we talk about it every year, and that is Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz, the trilogy. And the reason for this is pretty simple. Nate has one fight left on his contract. Everybody knows that. Conor has come out and said he has 2 fights left on his UFC contract. Don't know what these guys are going to do. They could hold this fight outside of the UFC years from now. They absolutely could. But right now, I'm kind of looking at what both of them have done recently. And this is a fight that always makes sense. I think we say that year after year after year. We've said it since 2016, since they've had the 2 fights. They're like, hey, that trilogy is out there always. I mean, Conor has acknowledged that. Nate doesn't like to acknowledge that because it kind of goes against like his code of like, I'm better than him. I don't need him. And he doesn't need Conor McGregor, but I think that obviously he has interest in that fight. I think that in his mind, he, killed Conor on the first one that, had there been no rules, he would have choked him out. And in the second one, he didn't feel like he lost that decision to Conor. So I think that Nate feels like he's ahead in this trilogy. But it's fun for everybody. You hear, Conor's coach, Kavanaugh talking about it all the time. This is always high on his list of something that he wants to see from McGregor. And you look at what they've done recently. Conor's coming off of a year in which he didn't win. Nate is coming off of a year in which he didn't win. With their contract situation with the UFC, I think it's time. I think it's time for this fight in 2022. So it is number 3 on my list. Number 2 on my list is Kamaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev. I got a lot more specific than you did with Khamzat Chimaev. And I won't spend a lot of time on this one, just to say that it's for all the reasons you said. I want to see how good the guy is. I want to see him against the very best guy, and that is clearly Kamaru Usman. So I'm with you. I want to see him against all of those top welterweights to see where he's at in the pecking order. But to me, I'm gonna name one, and my one is the best. I want to see Khamzat Chimaev fight the absolute best. Can he hang with those guys? I don't know yet, Marc, but he looks like he can. And if I'm going to go with my dream list, why would I put any other welterweight other than the absolute best, Kamaru Usman? And I'm going to tell you, dude, I think we do see this fight in 2022. I think we do see Kamaru Usman fight Khamzat Chimaev one way or another. So that is my number 2. What is your number 2?
I actually agree with you. I do think we see that before the end of the year. I think maybe toward the latter half of the year, there are probably some other contenders for Usman before Chimaev gets there. But I do think we'll see it, and I do want to see that very badly. My number 2 pick for fight I want to see in 2022 is also a guy that you had previously mentioned, and that is Nate Diaz, but not against Conor McGregor, Brett. I want to see Nate Diaz against Dustin Poirier. I really feel like this is the perfect time for this fight. I didn't even love that fight so much back when it was booked in 2019 initially. or was it 2018? I forget what year that was supposed to be at MSG. I think it was supposed to be, I think it was going to be on the Cormier Derek Lewis card, I believe, right? So it was 2018 at MSG. Didn't love that booking at that time, but I love it now. And I feel like both guys want it, and it makes sense for both guys. Dustin Poirier is coming off the loss to Charles Oliveira. So he loses a little bit of his momentum from the 2 wins over McGregor earlier in the year. And what better way to get back on the horse than to fight a guy who's also one of the biggest draws, and that's Nate Diaz. And there's a history there. There's a past. They're talking a lot. And for Nate Diaz, it makes total sense because he wants an important fight against a guy who wins a lot of fights. Dustin Poirier is one of the best lightweights in the world. There's no doubting that, even though he's coming off the loss to Oliveira. And Nate Diaz wants to get out of his UFC contract. That's pretty clear that he wants to take that fight. I mean, he was saying he wants to fight in December, then January. He wants to take this last fight, get out of his contract, be a free agent, and attract the most possible money from the highest bidder, which, again, understandable. And I think that's a great move for everyone involved, Poirier, Diaz, even the UFC, because I would even say, Brett, let's say it's Nate Diaz going against Conor McGregor, and it's Diaz's last fight on his contract. What happens if he beats Conor McGregor in that fight and he goes into free agency coming off a win over the biggest star in UFC history? His stock would never be higher. And I'm not sure if the UFC wants to do that. So they can put him in there with Poirier, who has beaten McGregor. So, recently, I'm not a big MMA math guy, but you would think he'd be favored over Nate Diaz. I think it makes sense. Do it early in the year. I think that would be a great fight, and I'd love to see it.
Yeah. I don't disagree with anything you said. I mean, for me, this is just what I want to see. And if Nate wins and goes into free agency with that wave, cool, good on him. That's great for him. And Conor, he would still have a huge fight after that. I have nothing against Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier. Would love to see it. If that's what ends up happening on Nate's last fight of his contract, I am down. But given between the two of them, which fight would I rather be around for fight week, cover, see the back and forth between them and then the fight itself? For me, it's Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz is still a step above Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier, but I don't blame you for your pick. All right, so number one fight you want to see in 2022. Let's hear yours first.
So, and I've gone back and forth with this one, and it's one that I've been saying that I want to see for, gosh, it feels like the last few years. And we're close to it happening, Brett, but it may not happen. There might be a guy who lives and trains in the city that I'm in right now who could spoil that for all of us. But I would really love to see Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones. I mean, the scariest heavyweight in UFC history going against the greatest champion in UFC history. The story just writes itself. It's like the immovable object against the unstoppable force, whatever that cliche is. I don't even know it, but it doesn't matter because this fight has all the makings to be an absolute classic. Ngannou, Jones, just putting those guys on the poster would get people to buy that fight. It would be so fascinating. And we would see Jon Jones in heavyweight finally, which he's been teasing for a long time. It seems like it really is close to happening with him. He's saying that he's going to fight the winner of Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane, which of course we're going to see really just in a few weeks here. UFC 270 on January 22nd in Anaheim. Of course, Ciryl Gane might have something to say about this fight. He very well could beat Ngannou, and then he'd be the one to fight Jon Jones. I would not mind that fight. I would love to watch that fight as well. I think that would be a fascinating stylistic matchup, but there's just something about Ngannou, right? He's kind of a larger than life guy. His knockout power is just off the charts. We've never seen Jon Jones in the cage with someone like that, an athletic guy bigger than him, almost as athletic and can punch really hard. I mean, man, that's a dream fight to me.
Yeah, it'd be the first fight in which Jon might not be the better athlete. And he's always had an athletic advantage throughout his entire career. So that's number one for me too, Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones. I think it's an easy call. I think it's an easy pick, honestly. I think if you polled a lot of the MMA media members, that's what they would say. We might not see it because of Ciryl Gane. We might not see it because of Francis Ngannou's contract situation with the UFC. I mean, we know that they're trying to work that out and don't have it done even as this title fight approaches. But yeah, for all the reasons you said, Francis, I mean, nothing against Ciryl Gane. I would love to see Gane fight Jon Jones too. Stylistically, that might actually even be more of an interesting matchup, quite frankly, just stylistically. But yeah. Francis Ngannou's knockout power, it feeds the creativity, man. The world would get behind that fight. Again, it's at heavyweight. You just saw what heavyweight can do in combat sports in the boxing realm. When you saw Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, what a great trilogy that was. If we get that in MMA with Francis Ngannou and Jon Jones, that would be a heck of a way that would be a heck of a title fight to have in 2022. So that is our top 3 picks for 2022. Hopefully we see them all. Send us.
Want to hear some of my honorable mentions, Brett?
Not really, but please go ahead.
I want to see Peter Yan versus TJ Dillashaw.
That was on my list as well.
And I got a little bit of a deep cut. I would like to see Kayla Harrison debut in the UFC against Holly Holm.
There you go. All right. Well, I like that. If you're going to throw out some of your honorable mentions, Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje in Brazil, which is what Gaethje wants.
They'd see it.
I actually think we'll get that one as well. I had Jorge versus Colby. Hopefully we will get that one. And, of course, we've been talking about Sean O'Malley and who is this guy going to fight? You know what? I surprised myself a little bit. I went with Cheeto Vera match, the rematch. And the reason I did is because there's heat, right? There's plenty to talk about before the fight. And I don't feel like we got the whole thing, I give Cheeto credit for beating Sean O'Malley, but I also think you can give him credit and say, well, the ending was rare. We don't see that very often, I think that the UFC matchmakers got that right. That is going to be a fun fight. And we got robbed of it. We didn't really get to see it, develop. I think it would develop in a rematch. And I think that's the way for O'Malley to break into the top 10. He says he's undefeated, even though he's got a loss. Let's challenge that with a rematch against Cheeto. So
I like where your head is at.
So that is our picks. You even got some honorable mentions out of us. Send us yours.
Free of charge.
What's that? Free of charge.
Honorable mentions free of charge.
Send us yours in the YouTube comments. Send us them on social media. And make sure you check out the other 2 videos that we're doing looking ahead at 2022. We did one on the year of Conor McGregor. What's he going to look like in 2022? And then also just the main storylines to keep an eye on. So thank you for watching, and make sure you subscribe to ESPN MMA YouTube for all of these videos going into the next year.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.